So if you guys have noticed, the headlines in the news right now is that tariffs have been blocked. Now, does that mean Bitcoin is just going to start rallying? Can we expect a rally? Well, we're going to look into that in a little bit more detail right now because we have, again, the headlines are just, we have a lot of this, um, US court blocks most Trump tariffs, and a lot of news, they all say it in different ways, but it's basically the same news. But what I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna just remind everyone of what I've been saying for the past weeks, and what we have been focusing on, which is focusing on price structures. Because I also said this a whole lot, that no matter what the news headlines are, no matter how much hype, no matter how much fear, no matter how much whatever, the price of Bitcoin is going to do what what makes sense that it's going to do. It's going to do whatever it wants to do that's healthy for the price structure. So, again, understanding that, and I'm going to get into how these tariff blockage affect, Bitcoin as well, which it doesn't really, in my opinion, but we have a massive, just perfect, beautiful, just uptrend, nice overall rally that's been happening since the start of April. And we've just been seeing consistency ever since then. We haven't seen a proper retracement just yet. I've been saying this in every Bitcoin video. Now, understanding that these tariffs have been blocked, we got to remember this is still very, very fresh. It's not like they're blocked and we're done. It's over. No tariffs. That's not what that means. We just have these. A lot of these tariffs have been blocked, and it's just the beginning. We need to wait before we get ahead of ourselves and jump to, like, conclusions when it comes to trading. We need to remind ourselves that this is fresh and we can expect a lot more official information to be released sometime in the future and throughout multiple, points in the future. This is not a really a delicate uh topic. It's not a situation that's easily just thrown, to the side and forgotten about. This is a pretty big deal, and it's not just over just like that. US court blocks tariffs. No. We got to remember that we need to focus on price action until new official news comes out that then, can reassure us on what the structure looks like and how that can affect the structure. But until then, and regardless of what comes out, we need to focus on the Bitcoin structure. And we know that we are overextended and we're looking for a proper retracement, because this is very, very similar. It's a great example. I've used this before in 2024 when Bitcoin had it went into deep value three times after making an all-time high at the time, all-time high right here. Um, and then it started coming down, three deep value dips before it has an uptrend that breaks previous resistances, and then it begins to, have a proper retracement. Within this time, a proper retracement would be around 59,400. It topped out at 66.5k before coming down and bottoming out at uh 50 58.8k. So we're looking at the potential of something very, very similar happening here. Now, remember, unlike that previous structure that I just showed you in 2024, the current structure is a lot more overextended, because back then it was just interest rate fear and the promise of interest rate progression getting better. In this case, you guys got to remember that there is a lot of this optimistic nature building on, due to, consistent delays of, it can either be tariffs or consistent delays and hopefulness of the Federal Reserve. And we also got to remember that it's not the tariff in the US court, or the president. It's not none of that that's going to cause Bitcoin to pop up like crazy and make a new all-time high. It's going to come down to the Federal Reserve with Jerome Powell, because he is the one that's going to really drive this chart. So he is going to decide when to cut rates. He's going to decide to hold. He's going to decide to do whatever. And at the end of the day, we got to remember that he's working with um, this period of time, these months in the past where tariffs have been a lot higher and we haven't actually seen that information or the results of that information in an FOMC meeting. That will happen soon in the future. So keep your US calendar, US market events open, because and remind yourselves of when that FOMC meeting is going to happen and where we are at on the structure. And I will keep you guys updated on that. But the thing is that he's the one we really want to wait on. And there's not a whole lot of information on the table that shows us that there is enough reasoning to be overly optimistic, at least in the short term. Later throughout this year, yes, but just not right now. So on top of that, Bitcoin is overextended and we haven't had a proper retracement in a while. So you guys know I'm eyeing both this area right here for a potential long position before the price tops out, and what that will look like. I've showed a different, I've showed an example of this in a past video like a day or two ago, but I'm gonna give you guys a different example, where the price can come down. It can potentially bottom out right there, and we're looking for a bullish retracement into it. So there's a long trade opportunity before we can come down lower. So there's always opportunities, and there's even short opportunities, to short Bitcoin as well. Before we come down into this area, and you guys know I'm very much eyeing this purple area between, it's going to be, for me, it's between 85 and 100K, 85,000 and 100,000. If the price rallies up into this area, then that purple area will be invalidated, and then we'll be looking at new structure to trade off of. But this doesn't mean that we can't benefit from either direction and make some profit. So what I want to talk about now, with all the stuff I just said, I want to focus on the structures and how we can take responsible trading positions while still trying to maximize our profit and protect our positions to conserve capital to then, buy a much better trading opportunity, or at least, a better opportunity to open orders at a much more of a better price. So if you guys remember on the last videos, if you guys been following, I kept saying we can find support in this rally's retracement, and from there we can potentially start retesting the previous swing high. We did that. If you guys took advantage of that, great, you made some profit. But now, hopefully you guys were being greedy and you started selling. But now, and then after that, I kept saying micro supports are extremely important. So using micro supports to, I feel like, sorry, I just say this a lot. So using micro supports are extremely important to set SLs, to use tight SLs, to protect your position, conserve capital for a much better buying opportunity, and then we take advantage of that. Using micro supports not just as SLs, but as an opportunity to buy small long positions. Position sizing is key in a market where we believe in the short term the price will be lower, especially when you're taking long positions. So small positions, be responsible with your trading, understand what we're working with to then try to capture any more upside. If you guys had SLs, good, because the price continued to come down. If you guys did, great, you conserve your capital and you're ready to buy a much better price. Of course, it's all just my opinion and the strategy and the way I trade. So now, if you guys know, I am out. I closed out a trade that I had. I conserved. It was a very small loss. It was like roughly 1,000 for me, so that's not really too much for me to worry about too much. I'm focused on future pricing. We've if you guys been following along, or if you are in my very much private circle group, which is invite only, so there's no way of getting in there unless I put you in there. But we've been doing extremely well, and having $1,000 SL loss does not mean anything. And going forward, right? This is why it's so important to understand trend structures. So if we broke this swing low, then we want to focus on this previous swing low as an indication that we're breaking the overall swing low for this move down, to then confirm that this is indeed a lower high on an overall downtrend pattern. So far, this area is getting ready to be invalidated. This blue area will be invalidated the moment the price comes down below this swing low. this swing low will invalidate this if we break below it. So what that means is that then we'll be looking, I already showed you guys this before as well, but we're looking at just a regular three wave move down before we go much higher. Now, we're still waiting for that swing low to get broken. There is a lot of downside pressure just based on the chart alone. Knowing that we have the blue area still comes down to the 0.618 extension at 100, or this is actually a retracement, I should say, but it comes down to $105,000. So there's a lot of potential there. And at the same time, we're starting to see finally the 120 moving average showing, that it's pointing downward. We haven't seen that in a while. And we're starting to show bearish momentum on the RSI. So there is a lot of reasons why the price would want to come down. Not just that. We're going to get into the smaller picture as well. Not just that. If you guys pay attention to the even closer in picture, we know that we have this sort of like, we broke below this swing low, we're lower. But then what I'm trying to say is that if you guys pay attention to the highs, we've seen this downtrend pattern where, we come down, we consolidate. It doesn't even come up to have a proper bullish retracement. It doesn't even do that. It just weakens even more. And now it rallied up higher. And this was with the, the tariffs being blocked. And that's supposed to be like really bullish news. Supposedly, right? But as you can see, it's obviously not. It came up. It didn't even touch the 120 moving average. And it started moving downward. So far, now we're also looking at this swing low right here to see if it's going to break. For us to finally break, if this swing low breaks, we can easily break past this one to the downside, and then we can start looking at lower prices from there. So what I'm just trying to express here is let's just keep doing what we've been doing always, which is using micro supports to set strong SLs to protect our positions, protect our portfolios, while still taking potential small long positions to capture any small, bullish moves higher. So if you guys started accumulating down here because the RSI was down, the RSI is quite low, and we were starting to show a weakness of bearish volume to start, for the price to start going higher, just above this swing low. So there's a micro support right on the RSI. There's micro support here when it comes to the smaller picture, and that we're pretty far away from the 120 moving average. So we have a lot of reasons where it's a pretty good idea to take a small long position to capture upside. If you did, you would have been, riding this higher. In this case, selling out would be as simple as we have a lot of consolidation here. We have a small imbalance right here, and the RSI is still showing, pretty flat downward structure. So, I wouldn't have been super greedy on that position either, but we're still holding a little bit of a swing high, or a higher low, I should say. But the thing is, an SL will be perfectly placed at this previous swing low. So you would have bought. You will have a super tight SL down here at like 106.6K. And then everything else is upside. You start selling when the RSI shows weakness, when the volume shows weakness, and we start seeing previous consolidation areas act as resistance. And, using the 120 moving average as a resistance because we are below it. So it's as simple as that, guys. It's just using tight stop losses to protect your position, conserve capital, small long positions so you're not over leveraging yourself, because there's a lot of over leveraging going on. And then understanding that even though we're doing that, we believe, and the whole reason we're doing that is because we believe that we're going to see much lower prices happen soon enough. And when we do have these lower prices, hopefully you guys conserved your capital, because it's going to be a crazy buying opportunity in this area. You guys know how I feel about those purple areas. Last time I used that color was deep value. That was like a no-brainer for me. So this is a very much a no-brainer area for just me. This is my own personal opinion. It can easily break below that, but I strongly believe we're going to see a bigger picture, higher low in this area, and then we're going to start finally trading up into this green area and making a significant all-time high. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.